Welcome back to Global News, your go-to source for the biggest updates from the USA and across the globe. Today, we are counting down the most impactful news stories you need to know right now. Before we jump in, make sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you never miss a world update. Let's get started with number 10.
Today, first news. Strategic realities challenge Trump's proclamation of victory. President Donald Trump has declared a total and complete victory following a ceasefire with Iran, framing the development as a monumental step toward a golden age. While the administration highlights China's role and promises that enriched uranium will be handled, the lack of specific details regarding enforcement or nuclear dismantlement has raised significant skepticism. The announcement followed a dramatic ultimatum where the president threatened the destruction of a civilization, a rhetorical escalation many view as a pressure tactic, rather than a structured breakthrough. Tehran, meanwhile, projects the outcome as favorable to its own interests. Without clarity on military rollbacks or regime concessions, the narrative of a unilateral American triumph remains difficult to justify amid the complex strategic realities. Next news. Netanyahu clarifies Lebanon exclusion from U.S.-Iran ceasefire. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has confirmed Israel's support for President Donald Trump's two-week ceasefire with Iran, but explicitly stated the truce does not include Lebanon. This contradicts Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, who mediated the deal and claimed the cessation of hostilities extended everywhere. While Netanyahu's office backs U.S. efforts to neutralize Iranian nuclear threats, the exclusion of Lebanon highlights the ongoing conflict with Hezbollah, which has already displaced over 1 million people. The agreement, reached narrowly before a U.S. strike deadline, leads to negotiations in Islamabad on April 10th. However, Tehran's 10-point demand for U.S. military withdrawal and sanctions relief presents significant hurdles. Despite Trump calling the proposal a workable basis, the conflicting terms regarding Lebanon reveal deep regional divisions. Next news. Indian embassy issues urgent evacuation advisory amid fragile ceasefire. The Indian embassy in Tehran has issued an urgent advisory instructing all Indian nationals to expeditiously exit Iran following a week of high-stakes military escalation. This directive, building on an April 7th stay-at-home order, emphasizes that all departures must be coordinated strictly with embassy officials to ensure safe passage via approved routes. Citizens are warned against attempting unauthorized land border crossings as regional stability remains precarious despite a newly announced two-week ceasefire. While President Trump suspended military operations to consider Iran's workable 10-point proposal, the terms remain contentious. Tehran's demands include the recognition of its nuclear enrichment rights, the lifting of all primary and secondary sanctions, and a total U.S. military withdrawal from the Middle East. With Israel explicitly excluding Lebanon from the truce and continuing strikes against Hezbollah, the threat of renewed conflict remains high. Consequently, the Indian government is prioritizing the immediate evacuation of its diaspora to prevent citizens from being caught in potential further hostilities. Next news. UK teen jailed after threatening fast food worker over sauce error. An 18-year-old man, Marwan Qadir, has been sentenced to 3 years in prison following a violent confrontation at a chicken shop in Penge, South London. The incident, which occurred last year on Christmas Eve, began when Qadir discovered he had received the wrong sauces with his order. Upon returning to the shop, Qadir physically assaulted an employee, shouting, "Why you give me 4 burger sauce? I asked for 3 garlic and 3 mayo." The situation escalated dangerously when Qadir brandished a highly realistic imitation firearm, threatening to kill the worker during a 2-minute ordeal. Although the weapon was later confirmed to be fake, its appearance caused significant panic. Qadir was recorded shouting, "I'm going to kill you now, are you mad?" before being apprehended. The court's 3-year sentence reflects the severity of using an imitation weapon to incite terror over a trivial dispute. Next news. Canadian authorities issue alert over fake milk settlement scam. Canadian cybersecurity officials have issued an urgent fraud alert regarding a deceptive phishing campaign targeting residents with fake milk settlement claims. Scammers are sending text messages promising financial payouts to lure recipients into clicking malicious links. These links direct users to counterfeit websites designed to harvest sensitive personal and financial data. One resident grew suspicious after discovering a provided contact number led to a generic voicemail, highlighting the deceptive nature of the scheme. Experts warn that fraudsters are increasingly mimicking real legal cases to gain trust. Since 2022, Canadians have lost over $2.4 billion to various scams, a figure officials believe is vastly underreported. Authorities emphasize that legitimate class action settlements never request sensitive banking details via unsolicited texts. Next news. KMT leader Cheng Li-wun advocates for peace and reconciliation in China. Visit. Kuomintang, KMT, chairperson Cheng Li-wun, called for cross-strait reconciliation and regional stability on Wednesday during a high-profile visit to China. While paying tribute to Dr. Sun Yat-sen in Nanjing, Cheng emphasized his role in establishing the Republic of China, ROC, Taiwan's official name, as Asia's first democratic republic. Describing her trip as a peace tour, she urged both sides to work toward unity and prevent future devastation for coming generations. Despite the message of peace, the visit faces significant domestic scrutiny. Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council noted that Cheng's references to the ROC were veiled and unlikely to be broadcast by Chinese state media. The council also criticized the CCP for co-opting Sun Yat-sen's legacy while ignoring the ROC's continued existence. With Beijing increasing military pressure, Taiwan's government is closely monitoring the 6-day itinerary. Next news: Iranian Navy threatens destruction for unauthorized transit in Hormuz. The Iranian Navy has issued a stark warning to vessels near the Strait of Hormuz, declaring that any ship attempting to pass without explicit permission will be destroyed. Radio messages reported by the Wall Street Journal emphasize that Tehran continues to assert total control over the waterway, a vital choke point for 20% of global oil supplies. This aggressive stance directly challenges President Donald Trump's recent ceasefire terms, which conditioned a pause in U.S. strikes on the complete, immediate, and safe reopening of the strait. While Trump suspended military action following a Pakistani-mediated truce, visual evidence shows most ships remain stationary under the shadow of warplanes patrolling the Persian Gulf. Iran's refusal to yield control complicates the fragile 14-day pause in hostilities. Next news: North Korea intensifies missile tests amid sharp rhetoric toward Seoul. North Korea escalated regional tensions on Wednesday by conducting its second missile test in 2 days, firing multiple short-range ballistic missiles toward its eastern waters. According to South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, several projectiles launched from the Wonsan area traveled approximately 240 kilometers, while an additional missile fired later covered over 700 kilometers. This follow-up launch, which Japan noted followed an unpredictable trajectory, comes after a suspected launch on Tuesday reportedly ended in failure. The military activity coincides with a sharp diplomatic shift, as senior official Jung Kum-chol dismissed Seoul's hopes for reconciliation, labeling South Korea the North's most hostile enemy state. Jung derided South Korean officials as fools for misinterpreting a recent statement by Kim Yo-jong as progress. Simultaneously, Pyongyang is strengthening ties with Beijing, confirming that Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi will visit on Thursday to revitalize bilateral relations. Next news: Ketamine Queen sentenced for role in Matthew Perry's fatal overdose. Jasmine Sangha, the North Hollywood dealer known as the Ketamine Queen, was sentenced Wednesday in Los Angeles for her role in the 2023 death of Friends star Matthew Perry. Prosecutors sought a 15-year prison term, citing her cold callousness in selling the 51 vials of ketamine that caused Perry's fatal overdose. Sangha, 42, previously pleaded guilty to 5 federal charges, including distribution resulting in death. Evidence revealed Sangha operated a high-end drug hub, selling 25 vials to Perry just 4 days before his death for $6,000. Following the actor's passing, she attempted to conceal her involvement by deleting encrypted messages. Perry's stepmother, Debbie Perry, urged the court for the maximum penalty, calling Sangha's actions heartless. Sangha is the third defendant sentenced in the high-profile investigation. Next news: fragile ceasefire, strained by Gulf attacks and Israeli strikes in Lebanon. The 2-week ceasefire announced by President Trump faces a potential collapse within hours as multiple Gulf nations report continued Iranian attacks. The UAE's defense ministry confirmed intercepting 17 ballistic missiles and 35 drones, with debris causing fires at the Habshan gas complex and injuring 3 individuals, including an Indian national. Similar alerts were reported in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, contradicting Pakistani claims of a universal cessation of hostilities. Simultaneously, Israel launched massive strikes against over 100 Hezbollah targets in Lebanon, asserting the truce does not apply to that front. While Trump remains optimistic about reopening the Strait of Hormuz to generate big money, the ongoing violence and territorial exclusions highlight a severe disconnect between diplomatic rhetoric and the reality on the ground.